SMCI is guiding to higher revenue and higher earnings in the next year, which may indicate that this sell-off is perhaps a little bit overdone.
It's a day of a lot of market movement for super microcomputers. Here to talk about what's behind all of the big moves today is our longtime MarketBeat analyst, Chris Markoch. Thanks for joining us, Chris. A lot going on with Supermicro today.
Thanks for having me, Bridget. Yeah, there's a couple of things going on with Supermicro. They reported earnings last night. Um, Slight miss on revenue, little bit larger miss on earnings, but the stock went up about 10% in the after hours because the company announced a 10-for-1 stock split, which will take place sometime in September. However, as analysts dove into the report, they're not liking what they're seeing in terms of the company's margins, and the stock is down. Right now, we're almost sitting around 11 o'clock or so on Wednesday morning, and the stock's down about 15%.
So up 10, down 15.
Yeah,
That's a lot of movement in
it
one day of
is.
trading.
It is.
Let's talk about that stock split first.
Sure.
That was a little bit of a surprise for investors. Why
Yeah.
so?
Well, it was a surprise for investors because it's the first time that Supermicro's done it. There had been some whispers that Supermicro might consider doing a stock split because the company's seen a really tremendous increase in the share price in the last year. Revenue's grown significantly, earnings have grown significantly, and that's because of demand for the company's servers and such in data centers that everybody's using for AI. And when a stock moves up that quickly to the level that it was, it's trading now at over $520 a share, even with this pullback this morning. It's a stock that people look at and say, okay, maybe it's time for the company to split its stock and give shareholders at least a psychological reward.
We've seen that a lot this summer, especially in the tech and the AI
Yeah,
world. Lots of different stock splits, helping more people get in on these.
right,
But why is it going down? Usually those stock splits lead to that big
right,
surge like we saw yesterday or this morning early.
right. Yeah, and I brought that up, Bridget. I think the reason why the stock is going down this morning isn't, I don't think it's not isn't due to the stock split. It's due to the fact that people are looking at the company's profit. Okay, so Supermicro is growing revenue and they're continuing to grow revenue at a very strong rate. That means they're getting more customers that want their products. That's generally a good thing. The problem that Supermicro might be having is that they don't have a high profit margin on their products. These are relatively low margin products, even though servers are quite expensive, as you know, they're not necessarily a high margin product. So the company isn't growing revenue at the same rate that it's growing earnings, and they missed on where analysts thought they should be with profit. And I think that's causing some pressure on the stock price this morning as people are trying to figure out, okay, what's the actual fair price for SMCI stock, which it's also important to note, it's still up about 119% for the year.
And not bad earnings for a year and
It,
growth in a year.
right,
Um,
exactly. It's still generating quite a bit of stock price growth for investors.
with all the movement happening with the stock today, what advice do you have for investors who might be looking at is now the time to get in before the split? When do we maybe get into the stock?
That's a really good question. I think so we've talked about stock splits a lot on the channel, and one of the things I'll again remind investors is a stock split doesn't do anything to change the fundamental valuation for the company. So whether you buy before the split or after the split doesn't really matter. The interesting thing to me, Bridget, is and I give credit to Thomas Hughes because Thomas and I were talking a little bit earlier, and he said, "Hey, did you see SMCI's guidance?" And I hadn't quite dug into that part of the report yet, but my gosh, when I looked at their guidance, SMCI is guiding to higher revenue and higher earnings in the next year, which may indicate that this sell off is perhaps a little bit overdone. And that would be the reason why investors would want to get in before the split, because if that's true, then the stock is going to probably go up a little bit before that split happens in September.
All right, Chris, thanks for giving us some insight into Supermicro today and all the movements. We're going to continue to follow everything this stock does now and into the future right here on MarketBeat.